Good morning, One Church. Those of you watching online, good morning and happy Mother's Day. Come on, let's worship. Oh, 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 oh. We worship the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging seas. My God, He holds the victory. Yeah. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. Oh, oh, oh. We shout out your praise. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes the way. 'Cause He hung up on that cross and He rose up from that grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy. There's joy. won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. Oh, oh, oh. We shout out your praise. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, we shout out your praise.
Just want to welcome you one more time this morning, and we invite you guys just to shake hands or hug or high five somebody around you and welcome them this morning. Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. His love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Yes, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
Woo! Awesome. You guys can have a seat. Thank you so much, worship team. Thank you guys for leading us in worship. We want to say a huge shout out for everybody in the room, or if you're watching online with us today, thank you so much for joining us on this special day, because what is today? Anybody know? Yeah, that's right. By the way, if you haven't wished your mom hello, you might be in the doghouse. So anyway, we really want to say welcome. And of course, welcome to all the moms. Welcome to all the ladies. Thank you so very much for being a part of our life. So grateful for you guys. We want to let you guys know we're in the time of our service where we're going to talk about giving, and where we give through a church, not to a church. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for giving. Our For Clarksville emphasis this month is on our students, because our students are getting ready to go to camp next month. And during usually the month before, we want to be able to, a portion of your offering is going to be able to help students go to camp. So if they don't have enough money, or if we have a lot of adults who show up and they take time, vacation time, to be able to go to camp as well, and we want to be able to send them well. So thank you so much for giving. We're so grateful for that. And speaking of students, if you have a 6th or a 12th grader and they are not coming to Inside Out on Wednesday nights, I really would encourage them 6:30 to 8 o'clock here in this building on Wednesday nights. And maybe you're a little bit too old to be able to come, but let me tell you, you have the impact. This is so amazing. You can have the impact on other students, and you can be able to show up and help out and be an adult. So if that's something you're interested in, you can be able to talk to me at the service. I'll be over on the Next Steps table. Well, I just want to say, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We're going to stand up and we're going to continue to sing.
I am guilty, ashamed of what I've done, what I've become. These hands are dirty. I dare not lift them up to the Holy One. You plead my cause, you right my wrongs, you break my chains, you've overcome, you gave your life to give me mine. You say that I am free, how can it be? Yeah. How can it be? I've been hiding, afraid I've let you down. Inside I doubt that you still love me, but in your eyes there's only grace now. You plead my cause, you right my wrongs, you break my chains, you've overcome, you gave your life to give me mine. You say that I am free, how can it be? Yeah, how can it be? You gave your life to give me mine. You say that I am free. You plead my cause. You right my wrongs. You break my chains. You've overcome. You gave your life to give me mine. You say that I am free. How can it be? Yeah. How can it be? Yeah.
Carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. And I see it now, I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, oh. You saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your Son for redemption, the price for my heart. I don't have a context for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, 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 again and again. Oh, 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 my heart has been in your sight long before my first breath, running into your arms. He's running to life from death, and I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling now, just as I am. You pull me in, and I know I need you now. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again. I So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, 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 again and again. Oh, 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 again and again. Yes, Father. Yes, Lord. We messed up, and we can run to you again and again and again because you don't forsake us. You loved us so much that you gave your only Son so we can be in relationship with you, so we can worship you, so we can find healing, physical and spiritual healing. Thank you, Jesus, for that sacrifice. You're your connection to our Father, where we can come to Him whenever we want to, whenever we need to, because He's there, because He doesn't forsake us, because we're too valuable for Him, because in His eyes we are perfect, in His eyes we are precious. Thank you, Lord. It is in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen.
Well, good morning, everyone. How are y'all doing today? Woo! It is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. You know, we wouldn't be here without mothers, right? You know what I'm saying? We really wouldn't be here without mothers, right? And so I know this day can be one that is emotional for so many. Some of us, let's be honest, don't have strong relationships with our moms. Some of us, our moms have passed away. Some of us we can be in a funky place with mom. And so wherever you find yourself today, just know that it is okay to be where you are. And for those mothers that are in the room, we just want you to know how very much we love and appreciate you. And we're so glad that you are here today. In case you haven't noticed, we did set up a little photo booth area over here to the side. So if you happen to beg your children to come to church today and they happen to show up, then you can just, say, well, while you're here, let's just make our way over to the side and get our picture made together. So let me work on this just one sec. I think I have some issues there. So yes, I know I have issues. Y'all don't have to tell me that. Believe me, I know there are issues. So, if this is your first time with us today, we do just want to say good morning and welcome. And we're so glad that you are here. You are our honored guest. My name is Kim, and I have the privilege of working with our worship team throughout the week, and also working with and loving on the ladies in our church. And so it's just my honor and privilege to be able to share with you today, to speak to you today as we begin a new series called Why Her? Now, this series is going to be one where we're going to take a long, hard look at the how and the why of our relationships and our responses. Now, some of the guys in the room are probably thinking, well, good, this is all about chicks. I can just check out. Wrong. Because no matter what, when we are alive, we have relationships. And as we are in relationship, we constantly deal with issues that crop up, things that we want to do better, things we need to learn and refine. And so, guys, listen in, because there'll be some important things for you as well as we go through this series. So perhaps you've asked that question before, if you're a female in the room. Perhaps you've asked the question, why her? Maybe there's someone in your life, a neighbor, a coworker, a friend, a sister, her. And no matter who she is and who you are, someone somewhere is probably asking why her, whether you're asking about someone or someone is asking it about you. And honestly, we don't even like to admit that we ask the question, because is even thinking about such a thing, is that even nice? Is it nice for us to have those questions where we think about her so much? We think about what she's doing, and we're watching out how she lives her life. And we see her having the thing that we desire most. And as long as we don't feel like we're hitting the mark, and when we don't feel like we're measuring up, we find that we look around and we begin to question the lives of others. Why is everything so easy for her? What am I doing wrong? What is wrong with me? So often as we ask these questions, guilt begins to consume us, and then we're left with a whole new set of questions like, okay, well, why should it matter that she is so amazing? Why should it matter that she's so fit and in shape and gorgeous? And why should it matter that she seems so put together and has it all? For guys in the room, maybe, why should it matter that he got the promotion? Why should it matter that he has the bigger salary? Whatever that looks like, we all tend to ask those questions as we look around us when we're feeling a place inside of us that doesn't quite measure up, that doesn't quite hit the mark of what the world says or what culture says we should be. And then as we ask these questions, knowing all along that they're defeating, knowing that they're unproductive, knowing that we really should just lay that aside, as we lay our head down on the pillow at night, it's still there. It creeps in. Any of you have those occasions where all of a sudden at about 2 or 2:30 in the morning, your brain just clicks on? And here start the questions. Questions about your own life, questions about your goals, questions about the things that you hoped for or had planned. And inevitably, someone else will come into our mind, because she is always there, right? She's there in her witty responses when we're in a group of people. She's in the carpool line driving her awesome car, right? She's there on Sunday morning or in the workplace in her perfect outfit, looking so cute with her perfect hair, and she goes home to her perfect house on perfect lane with her perfect family to live her perfect life, right? She's there every day, everywhere, every place, every moment. There she is. And at the heart of this, at the heart of noticing what everyone else has, is the battle of comparison. It's the war of competition. It's the identity-crushing process of putting ourselves down while we look at someone else and lift them up when we really have no clue what their true story is. It's about her being better than. It's about him being better than, anyone else being better than. And we find ourselves in the place of less than. Have you ever been there? I've been there. And comparison can sometimes make you feel these things, make you feel less than, make you feel like you ought to do more, strive more, be more. And so in this series, what we want to do is we want to just address some truths about comparison, about ourselves, about our thought life, about competition, about all the things that keeps us warring against one another, even if it's just privately. It keeps us in turmoil inside of our own heart and our own mind, rather than listening to what the voice of God has to say about us. Many of us have developed habits in our life that we want to keep our hearts safe. And so what we do is that we pretend that we're someone we're not. Because if we feel like if we're really known, if we're really seen, then it's not going to be good enough. Just like we choose a filter for our social media pic, we filter the version of ourselves that we put out for others to see of us because we want to be sure it's the version they'll accept. And sometimes it's a different version for every person we come in contact with. Boy, that's exhausting, isn't it? I don't know about y'all. When I was more active on social media, y'all, sometimes when I just would get ready to take a pic, like when it was all in the selfie age, and I'd take 100 pics, get the light, get the pose, am I leaning back enough, right? How's the hair? How's the makeup? Oh, wait, shadow. Oh, like, why? I mean, y'all see me in real life. So I've spent 30 minutes standing in front of my dining room window trying to get the light right, the light right and the phase right and the stance right, when really in real life you know who I am anyway. And the truth is about comparison is that it clouds our minds, it creates denial, and it causes us to see things differently than they really are. Let's say that one more time. Comparison clouds our minds. It creates denial, and it causes us to see things differently than they really are. So it clouds our minds. We have this unrealistic picture of maybe what someone else's life is, of what our truth for them is. And then it creates denial in us. Like, I'll never have that. I'll never be that. I could never do that. I don't measure up. We deny what our truth is because we'd rather embrace someone else's truth, someone else's life. And in that, we're just seeing things totally differently than they really are. So we need to get honest with ourselves. We need to get honest with God, and we need to find out what makes us feel so compelled to stay in the chase, to compare our lives with the lives of others. Because when we are honest, we know that we've all been in that place where we see ourselves as less than. When we've compared ourselves to someone else. It's the place where we feel challenged, the place we feel insecure, the place that we want to keep a secret. And often it's very deeply rooted. It's seldom seen because we love to shout our successes. We love for people to know the things that we do right, but we seldom share our secret sorrows. And those are the areas where we compare because we're looking for an answer to help us find the right place where we should be. But the more honest that we can be with ourselves about our secret sorrows, the sorrow deep down within our souls, the more we'll find the power to escape the chase. The chase of trying to be like someone, act like someone, do like someone else. Has there ever been a time in your life where you have pushed past that place, that secret place, perhaps insecurity or fear or worry, and you've chosen to share the truth with someone else? Perhaps it was just a one-on-one situation, and you thought, you know what, I'm just gonna be vulnerable. I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm just gonna go for it. And as you do, as you share, that person looks at you and goes, yes, I totally get it. I feel the same way. I battle the same thing. Has anybody ever been there? Anybody ever done that before? If you have not, I just want to challenge you. First challenge of this series, find someone that you can be real with. Find someone that you can be vulnerable with. Because we begin to kill comparison when we step into honesty, when we allow ourselves to be seen. And since we're talking about honesty, ladies, I'm really going to focus in on you for a minute. You know, for those of us who consider ourselves church ladies, Jesus ladies, whatever we want to call ourselves for, in this area of comparison, in the area of her, shouldn't we be cheering one another on? Shouldn't we be celebrating one another's success? Shouldn't we be praying for and encouraging one another? Shouldn't we rejoice when something great happens because we know how good it feels when someone rejoices with us? Shouldn't we come alongside someone when we see that they're struggling and get down on our knees and pray with them and for them rather than going, well, good luck with that? Because we're so worried that they might get something better than us or be something better than us or have something or achieve something that we're not going to. Y'all, we got to put that down. It is our role as women to love and support and encourage one another. If you can't worry about not having an arrow in your back when you step into this building, then I promise you, you're not safe anywhere you go. So I challenge us today as women, let's begin to change the narrative. Let's begin to be the biggest cheerleaders that we can for one another. Because as we engage in that type of truth and that type of encouragement, then I promise you, the comparison game, it changes immediately. Because we take the power away. Listen to this verse in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. It says, for we're not fighting against flesh and blood enemies. You know, that's what our enemy would have us think, that we're fighting with each other. That she is my enemy. You are my enemy. We're not fighting against that. We're fighting against evil rulers and authorities and powers of the unseen world. We're fighting against the mighty powers in this dark world and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. Y'all, we're fighting our enemy. We're fighting the enemy of our soul, the enemy who wants to say, you know, that love that Jesus says he has for you, could that possibly be true? You know how Jesus says, come and be forgiven of everything you've ever done? Really? Everything? You know that Jesus who says, leave the past in the past and come to me because when you begin a relationship to me, you are a new creation? That Jesus? Really? A new creation? Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. We're fighting that enemy. If we're living, and our living is about thriving in the life that we have, then we fix our eyes on Jesus. And we realize we're not fighting against one another. We are for one another. We encourage and spur one another on. And so our big idea for today is comparison is a battle to see whose truth, ours or God's, will allow to rule our thoughts and actions. Now, let me be clear. All truth is God's truth. And so when we build our lives on the foundation of God's truth, then we're already a step ahead in the battle. We've already put on that armor that Ephesians 6 goes on to talk about, or we suit up in preparation to fight the fiery arrows of the enemy. Because there is no question that we are engaged in a battle. We just read that. But when we step in, when we listen to the truth of God, when we are honest with ourselves, then we allow God to begin to reshape the way that we think about what is true. And not only what's true in her life, but also what's true in my life, in your life. I have an example that I'd love to share with you recently of when comparison reared its ugly head in my life. So just a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago tomorrow, as a matter of fact, my oldest son got married. Now, if you're a mom in the room and you've had a child get married, okay, that's a whole battle within itself, right? Like, oh my heart. And my son Walt and his now wife, Brooke, we're dating for 5 years. So they've been a part of our lives, and their relationship has been a part of our lives for a long time. So we went to Pensacola Beach for the wedding, and the first day that we got there, Brooke, who is now Walt's wife, was there, and she had her 2 bridesmaids there with her, and we're all out on the beach. We just go out on the beach for a little bit. And wouldn't you know it, they pull out the phones, and here come the pics, right? And y'all, they just fall into these pics so effortlessly, right? Like, I learned a new thing to do with the shoulder. When right before the camera goes off, you go up. You kind of do that number right there, like that. Or maybe it's forward. It's back? Okay, see? Okay. I mean, no matter how many times I showed them, asked them to show me, obviously I didn't get it. It was probably some odd, I probably was standing on doing this number, right? Like, how do I get it right? Anyway, so I'm watching them take these pics, and there's just something in me that's like, oh, I better get in on that. I need to be a part of that, right? And so I run over, and I'm just expecting to do a little, like duck in behind them and cheese type of thing, and they make room for me, all in all. Now here we are front and center, right? And so I've got on my bathing suit top and these little shorts, and of course they're in their little bikinis and they're so cute. And so I go in, and then as soon as the camera goes up, I'm like, shoulders back, down, like, what in the world am I supposed to? And the shoulder, don't forget the shoulder, right? And so I was gonna bring this pic to show y'all, but I just couldn't. I just couldn't. Y'all, when I saw it, I just had to laugh at myself. Because here are these beautiful young ladies, they're just like perfect. And here's me in this like shoulder, this awkward stance. And I just, I went back in the house and I ran to the bathroom and I shut the door and I pulled out my phone and I'm like, oh, I've got to look at this pic. And then I saw it and I'm like, oh God. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? Think I could just jump in the back of this picture with these cute little girls and just fit in. Oh no, there was a big difference. The skin and the hair and the eyes it was just, all I could do was just sit there and compare and compare and compare. And in the Old Testament, there's a story of two sisters who find themselves in the game of comparison. So we're going to dive in deep to that today. We're going to look at the story of Leah and Rachel. Now we're going to back up a little bit to give us some context about their lives. So we're going to go back about 4,000 years. And this all begins in the lives and marriage of a man named Isaac and his wife, Rebekah. After battling infertility in their marriage, Isaac prays for his wife, and the Lord answers Isaac's prayer by allowing Rebekah to become pregnant, and pregnant with twins, no less. And so the two sons are born to the happy couple, and their names are Esau and Jacob. And so as the boys grow up, there's some sibling rivalry there. But as they continue to grow, y'all, it just gets kind of out of hand. And if you're curious about it, go to the book of Genesis, and you can check out their story there. And so this sibling rivalry grows between them, and eventually Jacob tricks Esau into giving him his birthright. And that birthright is basically is meant for the firstborn, and it's kind of the inheritance. The firstborn is to receive a double portion of that. And so Jacob tricks Esau into giving it to him, and then later on, as their father Isaac is about to die, he ends up getting the blessing as well, the blessing meant for the firstborn. And so their relationship is, it's tense. There's a lot going on there. So much so that in Genesis chapter 28, verses 1 and 2, we read this. So Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and said, "You must not marry any of these Canaanite women. Go instead to the house of your grandfather Bethuel and marry one of your uncle Laban's daughters." So what happens is he's sending Jacob away because the rivalry between Jacob and Esau was so fierce that Esau says, "You just wait till Dad's dead. It's not going to be long until you're in the same position. I'm coming for you. I've had it with you. You've robbed me. You've taken what's mine." And so Isaac and Rebekah decide, we better get Jacob out of here before he's a dead man. And so Jacob ends up traveling and goes to a faraway land where he's really not supposed to be. He arrives in this new community and goes to the well. And the well's kind of the place where you go hang out to find out what's happening. Maybe like the general store, or kind of like Hardee's. Is that where people go to find out what's happening? I'm not sure. Anyway, so he goes there to see if he can find out what's happening, and he meets a guy, and they strike up a conversation, and this guy's one of the locals, and so Jacob says, "Do you happen to know Laban?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I know Laban," and he says, "And here comes his daughter, so let's catch up in Scripture." So Jacob went over to the shepherds and asked, "Where are you from?" "We're from Haran," they answered. "Do you know a man there named Laban, the grandson of Nahor?" he asked. Well, yeah, we do, they replied. Is he doing well? Jacob asked. So he's checking on the family situation here. Oh, yes, he's well, they answered. Look, here comes his daughter Rachel with the flock now. And Jacob was still talking to them when Rachel arrived with their father's flock, for she was a shepherd. So he checks in, he asks about his family members, and they're like, oh, yeah, we know this guy. And look, there comes his daughter. Okay, now let's just say when Rachel walks up, everything changes. You ever had one of those moments where someone walks in the room and you're like, be still my heart, right? You hear the birds are singing, the clouds part, the sunshine comes through. So this is what happens pretty much when Jacob sees Rachel. And so in verses 11 and 12, we read, then Jacob kissed Rachel and he wept aloud. And he explained to Rachel that he was her cousin on her father's side, the son of her aunt Rebekah. So Rachel quickly ran and told her father Laban. So here's what happened. Jacob comes into town. He goes to the well. He meets Rachel. He is completely smitten with her. He goes back to his uncle Laban's house, and he stays there for about a month. While he's there, he's helping out around the house with the chores and the animals. And finally, his uncle Laban says, listen, it's obvious that you plan on staying here for a while, right? I mean, after you've had company for a month, you'd probably be thinking, I guess they're going to stay for a while, right? What is that rule? Only stay 3 days. Fish and friends stink after 3 days. Isn't that? I think there's some rule like that. So he's definitely he's stayed a long time. You've been here for a while. And so I need to pay you for the work you're doing. Even though we're relatives, I need to pay you. And so in verse 16 of Genesis 29, we get some really important information about the family. Now Laban had 2 daughters. The oldest daughter was named Leah. The younger one was named Rachel. So, of course, we've already been introduced to Rachel as she came to the well with the flocks. And Jacob saw her there and was completely smitten with her. But there's someone else. There's an older sister. Let's look at verse 17. There was no sparkle in Leah's eyes, but Rachel had a beautiful figure and a lovely face. Okay, wow. Talk about comparison. Talk about contrast. Talk about competition. I mean, y'all, this is right here in the pages of the Bible. I mean, we've basically just said that Leah is a dog, right? She's got no sparkle in her eyes. Anybody ever known anybody like that? No sparkle? The unsparkly one, right? There's sparkly and non-sparkly. And so here, you know, at a time in history when women are really kind of considered property, there's this, the Bible throws out this comparison between the two of them, and nonetheless based on appearance. Like, come on, Bible. What's up with that, right? So simply put, Rachel's beautiful. I mean, look at this. It says that she has a beautiful figure and a lovely face, right? So Leah 0, Rachel 2. I mean, Leah's got no sparkle in her eyes. It's been compared like maybe she had like fish eyes. Anybody ever known anybody like that? Like bulging eyes or something. My 6th grade teacher was like that. Her name was Miss Bennett. She had these eyes that were so scary, and they kind of protruded out of her head, and her eyes were always really watery. And she wore these really thick glasses, so when she put them on, it like made them 3D, right? Like it looked like they were coming out at you, right? So I'm just trying to picture that. Was that kind of, did Leah maybe look something like that? I don't know. Either way, Rachel's beautiful, Leah's not. And so put yourself in Leah's place for a minute. Imagine growing up in that situation where Rachel's the beautiful one. Rachel's the younger sister. And so no doubt through the years, Leah heard things like, well, Rachel's so beautiful, or Rachel's so awesome. Rachel's so put together. Rachel this, Rachel that, Rachel, right? And so somewhere along the line, I'm sure Leah just began to feel less than. The comparison, the sting of that comparison happening over and over again in her life. And more often than not, maybe she had the question, why her? Why her? I'm the oldest one. The oldest child is supposed to have the favor and the blessing, the identity. And yet here she is. She outshines me. Let's look at verse 18. Since Jacob was in love with Rachel, he told her father, I'll work for 7 years if you'll give me Rachel, your younger daughter, as my wife. Even Jacob points it out, Rachel's the younger daughter. We'll keep going. Agreed, Laban replied. I'd rather give her to you than anyone else, so stay and work with me. And so Jacob worked for 7 years to pay for Rachel, but his love for her was so strong that it only seemed to him but a few days. Yeah, now for the romantics in the room, they're like, oh, that is so precious. 7 years of work. Yeah, right, wrong. Really? 7 years of work, that's a long time to stay. But he's taken with her. She's got his attention. And so the wedding plans are made. The 7 years has passed. The celebration is coming. It's time for the happy couple, to spend their first night together. Woohoo, here it is, 7 years later, on our way, right? There's just one little problem. We hear about it in verse 23. But that night when it was dark, Laban took Leah to Jacob, and he slept with her. Uh-oh. That was not the deal. That was not the plan. So needless to say, Jacob wakes up the next morning, turns over. I'm sure he was about to say, hello, my love, right? Like, whoa, what just happened here? I got the non-sparkly one. I got fish eyes in the bed with me, right? So that's right. So he confronts Laban, and he learns that it is the custom in this land that the older daughter is to marry first. And so Laban obeys the custom. He makes the switch, and he quickly promises Jacob that he can still marry Rachel, but he has to work for another 7 years. And so in verse 28, we read, so Jacob agreed to work 7 more years, and a week after Jacob had married Leah, Laban gave him Rachel too. So 1 week into the wedding, Leah gets a sister wife, literally a sister wife. So we find 3 people caught up in this crazy love story of tradition meets custom, meets circumstances, meets love. It's enough to make your head spin. And then check out verse 30. So Jacob slept with Rachel too, and he loved her so much more than Leah. He then stayed and worked for Laban the additional 7 years. So in a time where everything should be super exciting and wonderful, things just got really dreary. Leah gets a man because of tradition, not because of love. And Jacob gets a wife that he doesn't want and that he didn't work for. And Rachel gets her man, but her non-sparkly sister comes along with it. And to top it all off, Jacob loves Rachel much more than Leah. Now, if there's ever been a time when comparison and competition would rule, this is the perfect breeding ground for it to grow in. And if you've ever found yourself in that place where the circumstances did not turn out the way you thought they were, maybe you've heard the phrase in your mind or said it out loud, must be nice. It must be nice that Rachel got the man of her dreams. Must be nice that Rachel was chosen first. Must be nice that my dad thought that she's great enough that Jacob could work for her for 7 years. Must be nice that she was chosen first and I'm the one that you've got to take this one to get the one you really want, wife. Imagine the insecurity that builds. Imagine the hopelessness that builds in a life. Perhaps you remember your first encounter with must be nice. Maybe it must be nice to be able to afford those cool clothes. Must be nice to be dating that guy. Must be nice that your parents are still married. Must be nice. And when we are faced with that phrase, must be nice, then we know for sure that we are caught up in the grip of comparison. Everyone else seems to have it all, and we are lacking. And we become desperate to get the thing that we cannot seem to obtain. And I'm sure Leah spent a lot of time in that must be nice. She finds herself in this desperate situation, desperate for love, desperate for attention, desperate to be seen. And so the second truth we want to talk about today is that honesty teaches us to walk through desperate moments without having to do destructive things. Notice that Leah is in this situation that she never would have imagined that she would be in. And she was honest about how she felt, realizing that Jacob loves Rachel more. And so she just had to have that moment of truth with herself. And we have to come to the same place. When we're honest about the source of our comparison, then we can begin to feel hopeful again. When we're honest about our thoughts and our feelings and we call them out before they can take root in us, y'all, that is the key. We have to change the way we think, or we'll grow into a lifestyle that is steeped in bitterness and competition and comparison. So if we want to conquer competition, we must be honest about it. If we want to conquer comparison, we must be honest with ourselves. What is this thing in me that makes me want that so much? Where do I feel lacking? Where do I feel less than? Truth number 3 is that we often lose who we are while we're trying to become someone we're not. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about the fact that when you're comparing something, maybe there's something in that person's life that was never meant for you in the first place? But because we're so desperate to have it, we begin to change the way we walk and change the way we talk, right? Remember me in the picture? I'm trying to change everything about me in order to be able to fit in with these beautiful 22-year-old girls. I just wanted to have a moment where I just fit in there. And so when comparison becomes the compass of our life, and we chase after the things and the people that are around us, then we begin to lose who we really are and who God has created us to be. And then we become so miserable in our own lives that we engage in behaviors that are unhealthy. We spend too much money. We eat too much. We become addicted. We cover up our life. We begin to hide because we're so unhappy with who we really are. So watch out for that. You can lose who you really are, who God created you to be, when you're chasing after something you have no business having in your life in the first place. Leah could have tried to be like Rachel. She could have started working out. She could have grown her hair out. She could have started putting all types of creams and salves and whatever on her face, trying to find beautiful. But she didn't do that, and she wasn't throwing a fit, and she wasn't screaming at her dad, and she wasn't blaming her sister. What good would it have done anyway? It's done. Our chaos does nothing to end comparison. Actually, it's the fuel that feeds it, because the more we spin out of control in our minds, the more wound up we get, the more that thing that we're chasing, the person we're comparing ourselves to, just seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we fall further behind. And so our final truth today is that honesty leads us to quiet places where we seek to understand rather than react. When you hear the voice of comparison, when you hear the words of competition, when you feel the push of striving, what we need to do is get still. We need to get quiet. And we need to listen for the voice of God. What were those words that we sang today? I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. Listen to Proverbs 2:6. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come understanding and knowledge. Chaos drowns out the voice of truth. Comparison clouds our minds. What we're looking for is wisdom. What we need is understanding. Understanding of ourselves, understanding who God created us to be, understanding the unique life and purpose and plan that he has for each one of us. And so in order to hear the voice of God, we've got to get quiet. When we're rushing around in confusion and chaos, trying to fix everything on our own, we'll lose sight of what God has for us. We need a big dose of wisdom that can only come from him when we are fighting the battle of less sin, the battle of must be nice, the battle of why her. Wisdom isn't something that God forces on us. It's something that he gives us to focus on. Wisdom is knowledge that we have. We take knowledge that we have and we apply it to the way that we live. And guess what? When we're focused on his wisdom and his truth, then we stop looking around at those around us because we realize that's not our truth. That's not the way that he wants us to go. We're not focused on comparison. We're not focused on competition because we're focused on Jesus. We're focused on what he says. We're going to continue on in the story of Leah and Rachel next week, but today what I want you to begin to do is ask yourself, where am I with comparison? Where am I with competition? Step into honesty. Take a good hard look at your life. Where are the places that you feel less than? And how does it affect all of your other relationships? How does it affect your friendships? How does it affect your parenting? How does it affect your marriage? How does it affect the way you think about yourself? We must begin with honesty. Because when we are honest, we pull the legs out from under comparison. We allow it to fall. We shift our eyes toward Jesus and we get still and we listen for his truth. So take some time. Be honest with yourself. Look for the root of comparison and then choose whose truth you'll listen to. Remember our big idea. Comparison is the battle to see whose truth, ours or God's, will allow to rule our thoughts and our actions. Let's choose his truth today. Let's pray. God, we thank you so much that when you see us, you're not comparing us to other people. When you see us and we are in relationship with your precious son, Jesus, what you see is Jesus in us. Jesus, who is perfectly made, who lived perfectly and loved perfectly and is the example for us. Help us to identify that thing down deep within us, that inner longing, that voice that says, you've got to do more, you've got to be more, that voice that says, why her, why him, why this? The voice that causes us to question everything around us, the voice that keeps us unsettled, the voice that causes us to feel weak and confused and tired and weary in our own existence. The voice that tells us that we have to live somebody else's life instead of our own. Help us to listen to your voice instead of that voice. Place your truth in front of us and help us to get quiet and still and focus on who it is that you have called us to be. You've created every one of us to be unique and special. You look at us with love and compassion. You pour out forgiveness and mercy so that we can say, I am a child of God. Yes, I am. Let us look to you first before we look around and compare ourselves to others. Let us live our lives by your truth and your truth alone. Amen. Thank you all so much for being here today. Once again, happy Mother's Day to all the moms watching online and here in the room. Wish you guys a wonderful week this week. Take some time, ask yourself those tough questions. You guys have a great week. We love you. Go be the church.